Welcome to the American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants podcast. I am your host, Heidy De La Cruz, and I am on the mission to change the narrative of immigration, one immigrant story at a time. Hey, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. I am providing two announcements today. First is the networking event that I am hosting for the month of April. So this month, tickets are available. You can buy them in my stand store. The link is in the show notes and show description. I hope to see you there. It is Thursday, April 24th from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I really hope if you're able to make it, that you purchase a ticket, come celebrate all the success of the podcast, come celebrate the award, come celebrate immigration stories, come celebrate diversity, come celebrate inclusion, come celebrate all the good things that this podcast has done. And also come network. There are going to be other business owners there. There's going to be former guests of the show that are going to be there. There's also going to be a musical performance. So stay tuned for that. So yes, get your tickets and I hope to see you there. Second announcement is we officially have sponsor number 2 for the podcast. Evelyn from Ir al Sol Swimwear is sponsoring the event and the podcast. So thank you so much, Evelyn, for that. So she is an official sponsor now of the American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants podcast. She does custom-made swimsuits. So go to her website, iralsol.com, check out the designs. She does a custom made for women for their bodies, which is amazing. Okay, so check that out. Thank you once again, Evelyn, for being an official sponsor. You can find out all her information in the show notes and show description. And thank you once again for tuning in for another episode. Hope you enjoy. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants podcast. I am your host, Heidy De La Cruz, and I have a very special guest today. I have Sandy with us today, and she's going to be talking about her journey coming to the United States. How are you, Sandy?
I'm doing well, and thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, thank you for taking the time out to tell us about your journey. And so, if we could just get started with you introducing yourself to the audience, who you are, what you do, and how was life growing up in Vietnam from what you remember?
Yes, so hi, my name is Sandy Dang, and I am now the co-founder and principal of Co-Innovate Consulting. Before that, I I was appointed by President Obama to serve on the Vietnam Education Foundation, and later I became the executive director. And then before that, I founded a nonprofit helping refugee children. So I came to the United States from Vietnam when I was 13 years old. And the reason we came because we were forced out and my family had to leave in 1978. And we were, let's see, I left when I was 10 years old. Then we went back to China. We lived in rural China for about a year. That my parents make a very brave decision.
Yeah.
They came from China with 3 little kids. I'm the oldest, 10 years old, and my brother and sisters are 8 and 6. And we left, we escaped on a boat, a fishing boat, and
Wow.
we had to cross the oceans, and we almost died in the ocean.
Oof.
But luckily, somehow we made it to Hong Kong refugee camp, and we stayed in Hong Kong refugee camp for 3 years, and we moved from one camp to another. We stayed in 6 different camps. And in those 3 years, I had no education, formal education. And then very luckily, we were sponsored by a Mormon church to come to Salt Lake City, Utah in 81, and I was 13 years old. So that's the reason my parents came to the United States.
So from leaving Vietnam, you guys also had to flee from China as well?
Well, yeah, so we were forced out, we went back to China, then we fled from China. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my goodness. And so yeah, definitely lived in different areas before coming to the United States. Can you tell us a little bit about how was that experience?
Yeah, as I was thinking back, we were I lived during the war, the Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm.
And so in Vietnam, I live in Hanoi, and we had very little, food, very basic stuff, right?
Yeah.
It was so scarcity was the way of life. And when we escaped from China to Hong Kong, we lived in different refugee camps, and it was very difficult because Hong Kong had many people,
Yeah.
millions of people, and we live in warehouses because all these refugees, thousands of them coming.
Yeah.
And so we had to live in these warehouses where bunk beds, my family of 6 people, we have 2 bunk beds, two
Wow. For six
level,
people.
2 level, right?
Wow.
That's all our belonging. Everything had to fit into that 2 level, like 1 level. The bunk bed is 3 level. And so we had the first and the second level, and third level, someone else lived up there.
Wow.
So yeah, now thinking back, I don't know how we survived, but thinking about it, it's almost like we were in a homeless shelter.
Yeah.
And we had to, everything we had was in those 2 bunk beds, double bunk beds. So that was, really think about, when I think about it, I was like, how did we do it?
Yeah. Grace of God, man. Oh my goodness. So once you guys got to the United States, to Utah, do you remember the first culture shock that you experienced here in the United States?
Yeah, we came about 2 days before Halloween. And at 13, I said, this is so strange. All these people dress up, look like very scary, like ghosts and skeletons. And
Yeah.
yeah, they go and beg for candies. I said, what kind of tradition is this? It's so weird. And then my cousin, who are much younger than me, like maybe 5 years old, and they're like, let's go trick and treat. And I'm like, this is too strange for me.
Yeah.
And I was shocked that people go around and beg for candies. So that was my first culture shock.
But did you go? Did you go trick or treating?
I was very shy, I remember put on the bathrobe because I don't have any costume, right?
Yeah.
My cousin like, just follow us, just put on the bathrobe and follow us. That's your costume.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny. So you went in a bathrobe trick or treating for your first year. Did you continue trick or treating at years after that, or was that just your first experience and that was it?
That's it.
That was it. Oh, that's so funny. Oh my goodness. So when we previously talked, you had mentioned that you were able to visit Vietnam. So how was that experience visiting back?
The first time went back to visit, I was very nervous because
Yeah.
I don't know how people react, and I didn't know um, how I'm going to feel as a person returning, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I was very nervous, and I remember when the plane started to touch down, my heart was like pounding, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, I'm going back. I don't know how it's gonna go." Um, and I remember went to visit my cousins, and it's been almost like 15 years or more. And she's like, "Who are you?
Wow.
Tell me, who are you again?" And
Yeah.
she didn't recognize me. And I was really sad, right? Because I was that
Yeah.
oh. And then I have to explain it, my father, and then telling her my father's name is it. And then she's like, oh my God, because when you left, you were a little kid. I didn't recognize you. So
Yeah.
it was a relief that she actually recognized me and took me in, because I was
Oh.
nervous, because I was like, oh my gosh, she didn't remember who I am. And
Yeah.
all of that. And I was like, I was supposed to stay with her, and she don't know who I am. Hey. So anyway, so that was my first experience. But when I came back, I was very, what's the word? Like I miss the food, I miss the people, I miss the language, I miss
Yeah.
just the way of life. And I felt very what is it? like I wish I was soaking in, because in the US it was like I had to adapt, and when
Yeah.
I felt like, wow, I really miss this, I really miss the way of life, I really miss the street food. I really miss, how it tastes, the flowers, the smell of the lotus flowers, and all of that was very. And then the second time or third time, I don't remember. I went back and it was the Lunar New Year, and I was so happy because I was able to relive the Lunar New Year. Because in the U.S., Lunar New Year, if you are in a small town or even in a big city, you don't really people don't really celebrate Lunar New Year.
Yeah.
So it
Not the
was,
same.
yeah, really fun to be back and really soak in the culture and everything.
Yeah, I bet. So what made you decide to go back to visit?
What site do I go back to visit?
No, what made you decide? Like what brought up that decision to like, oh, let me, go back and visit after, having to flee. So just what was that decision like?
Well, that's a very good question. I always wanted to go back because I miss it so much. I
Mm,
miss seeing my families and miss seeing the culture and miss just the place I grew up. I have a very strong
home.
attachment to
Yeah.
my birthplace. And just being back in my home city feel very special. And I decided to go back because I miss it so much.
Because you
And
missed it. Yeah.
I always dreamed that one day I would go back, And at the time I was working with a lot of Vietnamese refugees. And I was like, well, I really want to go back and see what is it like now? Because I left when I was only 10 years old and it's very
Yeah.
different now.
Yeah.
So first time I went back was like 1997. It was very early. I went back by myself and I was very nervous.
Yeah. And I mean, as an adult, right? You went back
Yes, as an adult. I
as an
went back.
adult.
You can imagine I came when I was 13. And so by the time I went back, I was 20 something, late 20.
Late 20s. Okay. And your parents didn't want to go or they just weren't able to?
It was very expensive going back
Mm,
to
yeah.
Ellington. So, they wasn't ready and I really
Mm,
know. So so yeah, they were working and I decided, you know what? They're not ready to go back. I'm going back.
yeah. Oh, well, that's nice that you were able to do that and be able to go back by yourself. That's very brave too. But being able to just experience your culture again, your home, that's your home.
That's
So
my
that's
home. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I miss it so much. And I really, yeah, I really feel the passion to go back. So yeah.
Okay. And so before you guys moved to the United States, you mentioned you had cousins here. So you guys had family here when you guys came, right?
Well, basically, we are all refugees. Some of them came before me.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, of course, some of them came like a few months before me. Some of them
Yeah.
come half a year before me.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. And so Vietnam from China, Hong Kong, and then Utah, like, is the climate similar? Is the landscape similar? Or is it just a whole new world?
It's a whole new world. Utah is cold. I
Mm.
think first day when we landed, it snowed, and I was so excited. I ran out the airport and stuck out my tongue and tasted snowflake because I never seen snow before. I was so excited.
Yeah.
One of those magical moments, and I love it. And then seeing like everything was very spacious. The house was
Mm.
all apart. There's like green lawn. Even though the snow fall on the grass is still beautiful. And the mountain, we live in the valley and surrounded by mountain. It's so different. And it's very because I arrived in the winter, so I was very excited, and then when I go to the grocery store, I saw all that potato chips that I love potato chips. That was very the thing that I was kind of disappointed is that when I look at the vegetable section, there was not much there.
No.
There was so many kind of cereals and many kind of potato chip. But when I go to the vegetable, there's not much there at all.
No.
And now we have so many fruits and vegetable, but here, you have apple, you have oranges, but you don't have much else. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So how would you say the adapting to life in the US was for you?
For me, it's challenging. I remember like when I went to school, in Salt Lake City in seventh grade, I was like the only black hair girl in my class.
Wow.
And the school is very beautiful, but I didn't speak a word of English.
Oh
So
man.
for the first week in school, I could do is put my head down on the desk and cry. Um, and no one paid attention to me. So it was like one of those moments I realized that, you know what, I've been through so much. I've been
Hmm.
through refugee camp, the war, and almost died in the ocean. So I had to learn English. So that's when I decided I had to learn English.
Yeah.
So I sat with a very thick Vietnamese Green Dictionary every night because I didn't know any English, so I had to look up every word. But when
Yeah.
word you don't know what's can put can put a sentence together. And sometimes I just copy that in the whole paragraph and
Yeah.
hope
Yeah.
people give me extra credit because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah. And so you came in seventh grade, right?
Yeah.
Seventh grade. Oh my God, middle school, right in the middle of middle school, which is like that in itself is a hard time in life. And then now you're just like in a new school, new country, don't know the language. Oh my goodness. Did you have anybody like help you at school or like help or embrace you in any way? Or how long did it actually take for you to be able to adapt to the system in school?
Well, the first few months, I had one friend, and she speaks Vietnamese, and
Oh,
she's also a new immigrant like me.
okay. Okay.
So we stick together because you know I can talk with her. I can talk with anybody else. So I remember I was in my social study class, and the teacher liked to dictate the homework question, and I said, "Oh, he dictate the homework question. How am I going to be able to do the homework if I can't write down the questions?"
Yeah.
And I was very nervous. And so one of my classmate, her name is Lisa. I still remember her name. And she was in my music class as well. And so when I saw Lisa, I said, I don't know, I used my hand gesture, somehow asked her, like, can I copy
Yeah.
the, the homework questions? I don't remember exactly what I said to her, but I somehow using my hand gestures and think that she like, oh, you won the homework questions. And she was kind enough to give me the homework questions for me to copy. And so I'm very grateful to her. Uh,
Yeah.
and, in the church, I had a mentor. Her name is Anne Small. And so she came to our house, and for a few months, she taught us English. My sister and my brothers, and um, she taught me some English. So that was very helpful. We feel very blessed that we have someone who cared enough about us to come to our
Yeah.
house. But she also noted that she wanted to learn some Mandarin from my parents because my
Mhm.
parents speak three languages. They can speak Vietnamese, Mandarin, and Cantonese. So she said that in exchange, she can learn some Mandarin and she can teach us some English. So that was,
Oh, well, that's nice.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So do you still live in Utah?
No, I live in Washington, D.C. now.
In Washington. And when did you get to Washington, D.C.?
Well, Utah was only a year, and then my parents decided that, they need to move to places where there's more people who look like us. So they moved
Oh,
to New York City.
so where did they move to?
New York City,
Oh,
Brooklyn.
New York City. Oh, sorry, I didn't hear that. Okay, so New York City. So okay, so how was New York City for you guys?
Well, I was very upset at my parents because
Oh,
I've been moving around so much in my life, like 10 years old, I was moving to China, then Hong Kong refugee camp, moving around,
Yeah.
and then to Utah, and finally I was settled. And then a year later, they like pulled us and took a Greyhound bus from Utah to Salt Lake City. I mean, Salt Lake City to New York City. So I was very mad at my parents because in Brooklyn we live in a one-bedroom apartment in a very bad part of the neighborhood,
Mm.
and um, we had to take the subway into Manhattan to go to school. So every morning I had to push myself into the overcrowded car and
Mm.
sort of like trying to not to get my face to other people, and I would smell these strong perfumes, or that is so hard for me because I am very sensitive to smell.
Mm.
Um, and I just feel suffocated.
Yeah.
I couldn't breathe, and I had to take those train to the Manhattan, in Chinatown to go to school. So that was very hard. And then in Utah, the school is beautiful, big gym and everything. But in New York City, there's no no such thing as gymnastics or no such thing as beautiful, classroom and all that. So I
Yeah.
that that broken glass on the window, the window had broken glass and all that. So it was very hard for me to move from one place to another place, and it
Yeah.
started in New York and everything. So that was a big adjustment, and for I think 6 months I was depressed. I was
I bet. Yeah. You're getting settled in one place and then they come and move you again.
Yes, yes. So that was a very tough um first 6 months in New York City. Just sort of like had to get you to the
Yeah.
environment. And then my mother was working in a sewing factory, a sweatshop, where she had to work 6 days a week. And then when after school, we would go into the sewing factory and we would help her, and then we
Oh,
learned how to sew. Yeah, so
wow. And so did they move from New York City or you guys stayed there for a while?
my parents stay there. They still there.
Okay.
They
They're
still
still there? Oh man. So they like New York City then, like they adapted
yeah,
to
yeah.
oh wow. I mean, New York City is not similar to Vietnam, is it?
No.
Yeah, okay, that's great. I'm just trying to think like if it was just similar and that's why I don't know, but that I mean they adapted, they stayed, so
Um, yeah, in New York, in some way they have more Asian Americans living there, more
mm,
people living there. They
yeah,
can speak Mandarin, they can speak Cantonese, and
yeah,
they can go to Chinatown. So I think that, yeah, in some way that sort of helped them.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but
Oh
not
man.
now though.
No, you're not there no more. So let's talk about your work, the work that you do. How did you get into it? And yeah, just tell us how did you get into the work that you do? Sorry.
No, you know what? I think that what was really interesting is that, my experience of learning English at 13 and not knowing a word of English, and had to navigate that system. And of course, with the help of teachers and friends, and also, determined to learn English. And when I moved to New York City, I also realized that, in order to go to a good college, I really had to do well in school.
Mm.
So I was determined. And my parents want us to go to college, myself and my sibling, but they really don't know how to help us because they
Yeah,
never
yeah.
college before. And I'm the oldest in the family. So
Yes.
I had to figure
Mm-hmm.
out how to do that. So I remember my high school had about 4,000 students,
Yep, that's common in New York. Yes.
1,000 seniors, and there's one college counselor.
Hold on. For 4,000 students, just one counselor? Oh my gosh.
Well, for the senior class is 1,000, and there's one college counselor.
Okay, but still, that's crazy.
So, I know that in order to get the attention of college counselor, I need to find a way. So I actually volunteer. I decided to sign up and volunteer in her office.
Okay.
With some attention, and she would teach me how to apply to college. And so she did. She helped me a lot, another teacher too. So I felt very lucky that I went to John Dewey High School, and we have a lot of good teachers, public school, and they really care about my learning. So actually, I was very fortunate, and I was able to apply to like 9 different colleges, and I got into quite a few. And I went to Duke. I ended up at Duke University. And
Okay.
so that, experience after I graduated from Duke, I really want to find a way to pay it forward, like help others.
Oh, yeah.
Students. So that's when I went back to New York. I worked with at-risk youth who are immigrant, because I can speak Vietnamese, Cantonese, and English. So when I decided to get more schooling, I went into a Catholic university here to get my master in social work. And then after that, I saw there were 6,000 Vietnamese refugees here in Washington, D.C., and they were just like me a few years ago.
Yeah.
I decided to found a nonprofit organization to help refugee children to move out poverty through education. So we work on after-school program. We have a mentoring program, a family support services program, and a leadership program. So I build community centers with a lot of help from a lot of people. I build an organization that really belongs to the community. And so I teach storytelling to, I tell my stories, and then I teach my young people to go out and tell their story, ask the parents to also share their stories. So that's what I'm doing now, is teaching storytelling. But the organization I started with very few resources. Like we started with $15,000, and 7 years later, I have an annual budget of 1.7 million.
Oh my goodness.
And help a lot of thousands of students graduate from high school and go on to college. Many of them go to some of the very well-known universities like Columbia, UVA, Maryland, University of Maryland, College Park, and then, MIT, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So
That is amazing. And is it in Washington, D.C., or do you have different campuses in different locations?
well, now we expanded to Maryland. So we
Okay.
have office in Maryland, we have office in Northern Virginia, and we serving, but for 13 years, I was working day and night
Yeah.
for that. And then in 2007, I decided to pass it on because I really believe in building an organization that belongs to the community. So I pass it on and go on and do other things.
Okay. And so tell us about getting appointed by President Barack Obama. How was that experience?
Yeah, it's amazing because I said to you, I'm very attached to Vietnam, right? So I applied to be on this board of the Vietnam Education Foundation, which is an independent government agency, and with the goal is to reconcile the wounds of the war, right?
Yeah.
So, and I was survived during the war. We almost died during the war. So that's why I'm so honored to be appointed by President Obama to sit on this foundation to help Vietnam to advance their science and technology. So we had a fellowship program. We helped the brightest mind of Vietnam to come to the United States to study PhD. And it was an amazing experience because I able to connect with the next generation of Vietnamese and also get to share my experience and really able to work with Vietnam government and really enjoy the process of sharing my experience, sharing my skill set,
Yeah.
knowing culture, knowing the language, right? Even though I left Vietnam when I was 10 years old, but I still can speak fluent Vietnamese. I can learn how to um, speak some of the government language, some of the official
Yeah.
language. When you left at 10 years old, your
Yeah.
language is not as strong. But I feel very blessed that I had an opportunity to do something very meaningful. And later I became the executive director and able to lead the foundation from 2014 to 2018 and in 2018. So I feel very blessed about that.
Yeah, that is amazing. God bless the work that you do, that you did, and that you're currently doing, and will continue to do, because it is very important what you're doing to be able to help others who, are in the situation that you were in, and just to be able to help with the education aspect of it. Because, I mean, it's hard to navigate a new country and language and everything and try to figure things out. I'm the oldest daughter too, so I completely understand the whole navigating the whole college thing, and I'm in so much debt now because I was just getting, loans and loans and loans and things like that. But no, it's amazing the work that you're doing. And if someone is looking to support the work that you're doing or the organization, how can they do that?
Yeah, I teach this skill, the leadership skill called public narrative storytelling, and is a really wonderful leadership framework to help people to use their authentic story to inspire and motivate people to work toward a common goal, right? So Heidi, you also have wonderful stories about yourself and how can you use those stories to inspire others. So my website is called Inspire Leadership School, and people can check it out. And I teach this skill now around the world, and
Oh,
also here in the United States. So I get to teach people how to use their authentic stories and be able to take up leadership to make the world a better place. And
yeah.
teach it in Vietnamese, which you can learn it online. I teach it online. I teach it in person. I teach to a group of uh, leaders in 10 different ASEAN countries. And these days is wonderful because I can sit in Washington, D.C. and teach someone in a remote island in English.
Yes. Yeah. That's
So it's really
awesome.
wonderful, So yeah, I can check it out, Inspire Leadership School and yeah, inspireleadershipschool.com. And yeah, learn a lot about what what you can how you can use your story to inspire others.
Yeah. Yes. No, storytelling and sharing stories are really, really important and very powerful. And because I fully believe in that, is one of the reasons why I started this podcast is, share these immigrant stories, these, amazing stories of people and what they've gone through. Like, you're the perfect example of that, having to flee a war and living in refugee camps in a warehouse, and then come and learn a new culture, new language, and it wasn't anything from your doing or your parents doing. It was just, unfortunately, the circumstances that were, around you guys. And because I'm sure, like I've always said, like, if people, that is a hard choice to make, to have to leave their country. Like, people don't want to leave their culture, their home, their language. It's so this is why I have this. And so thank you so much for sharing. And I will definitely include the links to your organization in the show notes and the show description so people can get connected. And one last question that I love asking all my guests is, what does the American dream mean to you?
Well, the American dream mean for me is that, I had the freedom to make this, make a lot of I have different choices that I can make, right? And the thing that I value the most is how I can contribute to this country.
Mm,
And yeah, and how I really appreciate the fact, the opportunity that I have, right? And also my parents sacrificed so much for me.
yeah.
And so my American dream is really like, how can I use what I have to make the world a better place, to be able to contribute my skills, my knowledge, and you know, living the life that I want for myself, right?
Yeah.
Choice. And I think that not many people in the world can say that. So I have the opportunity to live the life that I want, to have a choice, to
Yeah.
do the things that I love and to be able to create the life that I want and make
Yes.
a difference.
Yes, I love that. And you've already contributed so much. I mean, the organization you build and the way that you're helping people, like that's a lot. So what's next for Sandy?
Well, I'm writing a book right now. And
Okay.
yeah, I'm working on a book that with the tentative title is The Power of Your Stories. Your
Love that.
You can use your story to enact change. And so
Yes.
working on it, and you can imagine English is my third language, but I'm very, very grateful that like I said to you, my dream is to be able to live the life that I want to live and to be making an impact. And so I think that this book can serve, I hope, to serve an inspiration.
No, it definitely will. So once this book is out, please let me know. I will definitely buy it and read it. And then I will love to have you back on the podcast so we can talk about the book because I mean, besides attorneys, because I love when people come and they become attorneys to help others, in the immigration process. Besides attorneys, like authors, I have a real special place in my heart, and I've loved interviewing authors for this podcast because, like you said, they're writing a book, publishing a book in a language that's not their native language. And for you, it's your third language. So that is amazing. It's a huge accomplishment. Congratulations. And I am really, really excited to read your book.
Yeah, Heidi, definitely. I'm looking for a publisher now, and when it's ready, I definitely will like email you and
Yes.
you, and then would love to be back on your podcast and talk about my book. So I think that would
Yeah.
be exciting.
Perfect. Well, Sandy, any last words that you would like to leave the audience?
Well, I just want the audience to know, like, thank you so much for listening, and thank you for supporting Heidi and her podcast, wonderful podcast, and also just living for all the immigrants out there, all the refugees out there. There's hope, there's like I'm an example, and I know that you will be able to find your dream, whatever that means, right? For being an American dream and whatever that means to you, and live a fulfilling and meaningful life full of love. So that is my last word for this podcast for now.
Thank you so much, Sandy, for that. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Heidi.